You're locked into the Boom and Freezer podcast, powered by the best in the game, Classic Billiards, Metro Sportz Bar, Anytime Billiards, PNW Pool Thing, the RACK Billiard Club, Evo Sports, Pechauer, Tommy's Tattoo Supplies, In the Box, Andy Gow, and Wayne Harriman. Now here are your hosts, Bobby Boom and Scott Frost.
Hey everybody, Bobby Hilton here along with Scott Frost. This is season number 2, episode 1, and I am super excited about this one. This is probably going to be one of my best shows I ever did, because I got this man right here, and he's going to do all the talking in a little while, so don't you guys worry. He's going to do a lot of talking. But the stories he's going to tell, we're going to hear a little bit about his history and about what he's done, and it's absolutely incredible. So, again, this is season 2, episode 1, the Boom and Freezer Show. Bobby Boom with Scott Frost, the Freezer. How you doing, Scott?
Thanks, Bobby. Thank you very much. We thank you for all who are tuning in. Do us a favor really quick. We're trying to build this. Obviously, this isn't my first choice being out here, but Bobby wanted it. I think some people wanted it. But like, share, and subscribe if you get a chance. Share it to your friends. Like the page, subscribe, like the show. We'd really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Like, share, and subscribe. And we're going to get right into it with this man, Scott Frost, the history of his billiard career and his life story. You know, let's start off, let's talk a little bit about when you were younger, your family in Des Moines, Iowa, correct? Des Moines, Iowa. Okay. It's spelled Des Moines, right?
That's never heard that ever. Des Moines, Iowa is what it's called.
Gotcha. And so you grew up there. I know you didn't start pole till a little bit later, but let's start off with a younger career. I know you played basketball a little bit. Let's go into that and how you got into the pole career.
Yeah, well, it was a complete accident. I guess just I'll briefly touch on my childhood. My father was in the Navy for 22 years. He was actually a boxer in the Navy. He was 57 when I was born, and my mother was 33. I was raised from a very good family. I'm very fortunate, but he was a boxer. He was retired prior to obviously having me, and then went into banking, became the senior vice chairman of Wells Fargo, but back then was called Norwest Banks. So they'd merged at the time. And he was a very, very hard worker. Also my coach in baseball. That being said, so I was blessed, raised with a good family, but at the age of 14, I had a divorce, which was pretty rough. All through that time, I was in sports. I played soccer, baseball, basketball, and football. Throughout my entire childhood, I was in all sports. I narrowed that down more towards the end with baseball and basketball. And basketball at the end is kind of how I found pool.
Okay. And talk a little bit about basketball. I know I read a little bit about it, and of course I talked to you in between shows and stuff. Basketball was your sport. You actually were really good at basketball, and I think you possibly had a career to do something with that. Let's talk a little bit about that with your basketball career.
Well, I was skinny, man. I was 6'2", 6'2.5", maybe 6'3", but I was 170 my entire high school and childhood. Right, I never could gain a pound. But I was pretty good at handling the ball, right? I had a couple of scholarships to colleges. It's a big deal. I think the third tallest person on my team, but was still in the guard position.
Yep.
That being said, I was passionate and obsessed, right? So we grew up in Des Moines, Iowa, where it was very cold, very, very cold winter. So I was so obsessed to the point where we had a basketball court in my basement. Now, we didn't have a lavish house after my parents got divorced, just a 3-bedroom normal house, and the basement wasn't finished, but I built like a mini half court just in case it snowed out. So when I wasn't working on the court out front in the driveway, I was working down in the basement. So I was just kind of an obsessive type of person. And my brother was in the military. He was in the Air Force. Shout out to Tom. And he got real sick. He was stationed in Rome, New York. I was the last guy to miss a practice. I was the first one there, and this is true. I was the first one there, the last one to leave. I was a sicko. I just really was obsessed with anything I liked to do. I wasn't very good at everything or many things, but this was just something that I loved, right? And I just did it so much, I think I got better and better. But I missed a practice, one practice. I was always competing with Coach Smith, his son. I'm not going to say his son's name, but I was always competing with his son. So there's kind of just some tension there all the time. and I missed the practice. And the rule was that you had to have a note before and then when you got back, right? So I missed the practice. I gave the coach the note. It was a Friday evening. I'll never forget it. It was a Friday evening, and I knew I could not. My brother was sick, sorry, going back to that. He was stationed in Rome, New York. He was sick. He had a pretty bad case of pneumonia. So my brother, sister, and mom and I went out there to visit him for a few days. We get back. It was like a Thursday. We get back. Friday's the game. And I had a note from my coach. And the rule was that if you miss a practice, you can go to the game. You just can't dress, right? Well, it was an away game. And so we had to get on the bus. Excuse me. We had to get on the bus. So I have my gym bag and I'm all chipper, right?
You ready to go?
I'm ready to go with the team, right? And I'm literally like the third person left to get on the bus. A couple people behind me, and he yells, "Frost, where do you think you're going?" In a little bit more of a vulgar verbiage.
Yeah.
And I turned around, I said, "Coach Smith, I'm getting on the bus." And he says, "You're not getting on that bus, right?" And it was weird. So I lost my temper, and he was a much bigger guy than me, but I lost my temper, and I literally did like a 180, maybe a 360, and I flung my bag at him, but I was about 10 to 12 feet from him, maybe 15 feet, and he kind of had to duck and dodge the bag, and I just walked off.
No, you said you were a little tension at some practices, but I'm sure you weren't doing this all the time confrontational with him.
No.
So this was kind of random.
Yeah, like I never talked back to him or anything like that. Right, Coach, it was random, but I could feel the tension like with the competition between his son and
right.
So I fling the bag at him, and he kind of dodges it. I was kind of probably in the back of my mind, probably kind of scared he was going to come at me. So I just walked off the other direction, and that was it. It was just kind of wild. And I didn't really think at that moment that was it. I wasn't planning on that being it, but I figured I might be kicked off the team at that time. So that's how I found pool. It just so happened not 20 minutes later, I'm walking around the other side of the building. Urbandale High School is where I was going to school. And there was a friend that, I guess you could say, a dark side friend. We all had those friends, right? The preppy guys. And then the other,
the sports athletic, or just the guys that,
and he wasn't a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
He was just one of those guys that wasn't really an athlete.
Right. He wasn't really sure what he was doing. He was going to do what he wanted. And that was it.
Yeah, exactly. And his name was Corey Bird. I'll say his name.
There you go.
We still talk. He's around the corner. And he's like, "What's wrong?" He probably seen my face. And I told him what happened. And he says, "Well, why don't we go to my house?" I think that's what he'd said. But anyway, the bus stop was right by a pool room called Encounters. Okay. So we took one bus to the next bus, and when we're waiting on the next bus, there's where this pool room is at. And it's in Beaverdale. It's about a mile from our school. As the crow flies, probably about a mile. And he talks me into sneaking into this pool room while we're at the second stop.
And it's sneaking, and you had to sneak in. You're not old enough to go in there. Back in the day, 18 or 21 or whatever it was.
That's right. Yeah, definitely not old enough. But it was still afternoon time. I think our game was like an hour and a half drive away. So it was still afternoon. It was daylight. And it was still early afternoon, right? It was like, I want to say maybe like 3:30, 4-ish in the afternoon. So he says, "Let's go in there." Well, I'd never played pool ever. I mean, we had a bumper pool table in our old house.
Yeah.
I had just
had some balls maybe.
Whatever. Yeah. I mean, so we sneak in, but we could tell the place was dead, and it was afternoon time. And there's a cute girl behind the bar, and then there's a guy sitting at the bar, clean cut guy, a little stockier guy, clean cut, and that was it. That was all it was in this place. And here I am, and Corey and I are walking in there, and we're just kind of like looking around, and the guy says something like, "You guys lost," and
you kind of were.
We kind of were, and I don't know exactly what took place, but he asked me if I wanted to play, and I said yes, and I don't know where this came from. I revisit this moment quite a bit. It's really kind of odd. I said yes, like it was natural.
Yeah,
but I like competition,
right?
And he said $2 a game, 8-ball, when he asked me if I wanted to play.
Yeah.
And I just immediately
said, "Okay, yeah, I'm ready." So for something.
So I didn't know exactly what I was doing there.
Yeah.
So we play. And in realistically, probably 20 minutes. I had $22 on me, and he beat me out of the $22. The minute we were done, he said, "Oh, so you're a lefty, right?" And so I thought I was playing right-handed by holding the cue with my right hand, but I was playing left-handed. Yeah. So I tried to switch, and I was already so used to it in that 20 minutes or so that I couldn't switch back to my right hand, and I'm right-handed at everything I do. I can't eat.
Was you play lefty?
Yeah, I can't spell my name. I can't eat food. I can't do anything like that.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, so I think maybe kind of meant to be, but that happened, right? And some one thing after another, we continue to go back to this pool room. Long story short, I'm trying to keep this as brief as I can. The owner of that room happened to be a world champion player. And it's just ironic how it happened. The cute girl at the bar was his daughter named Ronnie McCoy. The owner of the room was named Don McCoy. Any old school player, Keith McCready, Efren Reyes, they all know him. There's an interview with Efren Reyes saying Don McCoy is probably the toughest player he ever had to play in a tournament, if he ever drew him, and they played multiple times. So I had to go through this phase where I took my passion for basketball, obviously, and just gave everything I had to pool.
Yeah. That sounds like that's your personality when you do something. And that's what I'm getting to is doing this podcast thing. I mean, you're intense. When you want to do something, you're not only messing with this, you're doing the cameras, you're intense with what you do. So I get that as your personality. So that kind of came into the pool world as well, huh? You brought that full bowl and barrel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what happened. There's too many things in between what happened and like all these scenarios. Multiple times I'd been removed from the pool room, not physically, but they just couldn't take the chance with their liquor license. But I had nothing else really at the time. I felt completely empty, and pool was my attachment and something that, I felt like I had a little natural ability at, and there were some really good players in that town at the time, right? So I continued to sneak in. Now, they never got mad at me because I wasn't going in there drinking or looking to get in trouble. The only thing I was trying to do was play.
Right. And as a pool, I am a pool owner, and, my daughter works the bar, I was work the bar. Yeah. And if you see somebody coming in that has a passion or a talent, you kind of take to that, and so it looks like that what happened here. And then what happened from there? You just kept playing, and then,
yeah, I kept playing. I kept getting beat, kept playing, kept getting beat, but I was obsessed. I talked my mother into buying me a pool table. It was like a $500 table. The corners, like the wood corners, were missing. Anybody from my own town remembers this table because everybody came over and got to play with me. But I talked her into that, and so I just continued to play. And finally, Donnie, the owner, McCoy, realized the passion that I had to come in. And I was like the only one that had a pass. And, they were probably risking the liquor license at the time. So
right.
I knew I was fortunate there.
Yeah.
But I couldn't I just don't know where this came from because my whole family's in business, right? This is nobody in my family plays pool. Never a father.
Never guys when I was a family, let's go shoot some pool. Never.
Yeah. So, but I couldn't play really without gambling from the get-go. Like I had to be playing for something, right? Which kind of set off a whole other set of scenarios that kind of got me in a little bit of a bind that I'll touch on.
Right, that's what we're going to talk about a little bit next. And it sounds like, when you first walk in, you're playing for your last $22, $2 a rack. That's how it all started, and that kind of got you the bug as well. But, you've been known for taking serious action in the one pocket world, especially, but at 9-ball as well. Can you take us back to some of the wildest gambling stories you had as far as, it's just starting out as well, because obviously we're going to go talk a little bit more in depth about some of the stories you had. Like there's pictures of you, Scott, with thousands and thousands of dollars at a very young age that a lot of people in this world can imagine. Like even older people, they can imagine holding $50,000 in their hands, Scott, and you're doing that from pool. So you got any stories you can tell us a little bit about back when you first started in gambling those?
Yeah, so I'll tell this quick story that I'm not proud of. My mom lived on a golf course, and I had to gamble, whether I was playing $5 or $10 a game in this pool room, because I knew that if I got as good as I wanted to be, I had a plan to go on the road. So 16 and 17 years old, my friend, the guy that was at the bar that asked me to play, he and I became close. He was a semi-professional golf player. He was truly a semi-professional golfer, and he was a great pool player as well. Well, he just happened to manage a Nevada Bob's golf course. And I was, looking back, it's just kind of crazy. I can't believe this is how obsessed I was at getting to where I wanted to be in the game. But my parents did not like me going to the pool room, so I had to find a way to get money to go there. And one night, I was sneaking out of the house, going back, and one night my friend was dropping me off. My parents would have killed me.
And you're about, what, 16 this time? 15, 16?
No, 16, almost 62.
Okay.
Right? And I saw a garage door open, and the light went off, right? I'm like, and I was broke, right? The light went up, and I'm like, man, there's a set of golf clubs over there. If I could get those golf clubs, I could take those golf clubs, I could sell them through Tom that works at Nevada Bob's, and I could get some money. And you know what? I didn't care. I'll just split it with him, but I'll have money to go to the pool room and play. And I'm not proud of it, but I wanted to be honest on the podcast. But it gives you an idea of how driven I was to really do this. I could have done a lot of other things, but this is the very first thing I found to get money. Bad situation. It worked, right? First set of golf clubs, I stole it.
Nice and easy, just the way you planned it. Said, I'm going to get these clubs, going to swap them out.
Yeah.
Yep.
It worked, right?
Yep.
So you know how that works. One thing turned into another. The whole neighborhood was missing their golf clubs, after probably 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
True story.
Yeah.
And looking back, and trust me, I've done my time as far as apologizing and this and that. I'll get to that, but it just kept happening. And what I kept doing is just going to the pool room, and I didn't want spots. I just kept playing everybody even. And there were some really good players there.
Yep.
And I just kept losing whatever I had. 500, 400, 600. My nickname was the go-off kid from Des Moines. People started coming in from out of town to trim me off, right? And I already knew it was coming. But, I'm young and dumb at the time. Thought I was slick, and it was going to come around to me. Well, what ended up happening is my friend, the detectives came to him. I found out later. But on my 18th birthday, my parents and my brother and sister and I are getting ready to head to Minnesota. We had a lake home that we would go to way north. And on my 18th birthday, my mom hands me the phone. We didn't have cell phones.
Yeah. Yeah, and the phone on the wall.
Yeah. And she said, Scott, it's somebody for you. And she sounds like an older gentleman. I answered her phone, and he said, Scott, this is Detective Bogle. And if you want to look out your front window, I have a knock down your door party with 40 of my best officers.
Wow.
We know what you have in your basement, and I know your mom is probably right by you. So what you can do for us is take the sets of clubs, bring them to the station. The Urbandale Police Department was less than a block from my mom's house. As soon as you got out of the neighborhood and went across the street, which was 86th Street, it was right there. And I said, okay, no problem, right? And I just acted like it was
nothing, just kind of try to be cool, trying to figure it out in your head what you're going to do.
Yeah.
I can imagine the stress you must have been going through at that point.
Yeah, it was crazy. So they had evidence on me with 4 sets of clubs already, and I had 3 sets or something in the basement. And I can't remember how I got them to the police department without my mom knowing, but she ended up finding out, obviously.
Yeah.
But they didn't put me in jail right away or anything like that. They recognized what was kind of going on.
Yeah.
It was my 18th birthday.
Yep.
And I think they charged me with 7 felonies.
Really?
Yeah.
From the start,
we were all, there were several $100 sets of
right. Yeah.
It was more. And I don't want to dwell on this long, but a long story short, I got out of that. I had a year youthful lynching program, and I had to go to this program every single day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. If I was 1 minute late, they arrest you right there in the facility.
Yeah.
And you have to do this full
to the time.
It's literally like military, literally. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. That's my whole point to this story. So it was kind of the best thing that ever happened to me and set me straight as far as stealing and things like that. My father wasn't happy. I have good parents, had good parents. So anyway, that was really my desire and how bad I wanted to play pool. But I couldn't play for free. I feel like there always had to be something on the line. But I got through that. I passed that course. And throughout that whole time, I continued to play. Right? Nobody could stop me from doing that because I wanted it so bad.
Yeah, it's in your blood. And now you finished your program.
I finished over there, graduated high school. Yeah. I missed a lot of days the last year, but I did graduate. And then I had a plan to start traveling, and that's what I did.
So it's kind of like you took a little bit of your father's career, a little bit. It took a little military, like that kind of military that kind of kicked your butt. Let's get there on time. No, it can't be late to do what you got to do. And all right, so at that point now, you're still playing, right? And you're still trying to gamble. You're still trying to get to the top to do what you're going to do. Let's talk about some of the stories when you started gambling and actually started putting it together, started winning. Okay, now you're getting a little bit better, right? And your career's like, you never really, let's talk about this a little bit. You never really went for the full pool professional career at a young age. I looked at your Fargo reading and you have 4,000 matches. I have APA 4s and they're 22 years old. They have more matches than you just got.
Yeah.
So it just goes to tell you that, and obviously Fargo hasn't been around forever, but just to say you haven't taken a pro path. So I want to talk a little bit about that. How you went that way with, I'm going to go on the road. I want to gamble. I'm not going to try to play in the big tournaments.
Yeah, well, good question. It was pretty simple though. If I wanted to make a living, I was doing the math right. The pro tournaments didn't pay what research I did as far as what I could do if nobody really knew me and I went from town to town. Now, when I went from town to town, I didn't tell them my name was Fred. I actually told them the whole truth and told them I was the best player they ever saw, which wasn't true at the time, but I would never, ever tell them a fake name. Now, I could mislead them or this, that, the other, but I'd never tell them a fake name. And I just I started to find out, my first trip I left with $150, and I think I won around $170,000. Bought a Suburban, a brand new walleye boat. I've always loved the outdoors and still do to this day, and that's my passion. It's my passion more than anything. So I just realized that there was more money in it, and that's how I started playing One Pocket as well. There was a private Italian club in Des Moines, Iowa. Some powerful Italian people had got run out of Chicago, run out of Kansas City, run out of Omaha, and run out of Minneapolis back in the late 80s, and then developed a club in Des Moines, Iowa. That's where they all resided. They developed a club in Des Moines, Iowa called South Shore. It's burned down now. They were very good guys. They weren't just gangsters. They were very good guys. They recognized my talent when I was about 17 and took me under their wing. So when they took me under their wing, I was allowed to start going to this club. It's a private club, no women allowed. They had poker games in this club. They had a pool table in this club, and the boss of this room really took me under his wing. So he started taking me to Alabama, where they owned a bunch of poker rooms called AMVETS clubs. Kind of like I don't know. I mean, the people in the South, they still had these AMVETS clubs. I'm not going to name the name of these people.
Right.
Most of them are dead now from old age, but really good people. This is how I kind of got known with Billy and Cardona, and how we kind of crossed paths, and Billy kind of, with Billy and the guys like Jack Cooney and watching them growing up, I recognized how much money they had made not playing pro events, really. And so that's kind of how that all tied in. So I just started.
So you no desire, you want to stay away from it?
Not really. I mean, I was just always a money player.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah. Until a certain point, which we'll probably get to, right?
Right.
But that's always what my focus was, and that's where my desire was. That's the rush I would get, was when I was playing for the money, and I was, something came out in me when I was playing for big money. Yeah, so that's kind of how that all took place, and then I started going through the South, and I was improving rapidly, like really rapidly. I didn't realize how much I was improving, just like these young guys. I don't think they recognize how quickly they are improving. When it's happened, you just don't recognize it. It just happens.
Yeah.
So that was happening as well.
Start winning and start beating almost everybody, and you can feel it like I'm in control. I can do this.
But I was getting games where like they were giving me big handicaps and they needed them, right? Like let's say I'm playing somebody. I would go into a pool room.
You're still young at this point, right?
Yeah, I'm 19, 20.
Yeah.
So I was going into bars and pool rooms. I was in a pool room in Chattanooga, or in a bar in Chattanooga, and I knew on Fridays these guys would, and I had people steermen. So just so you guys know what a steerman is, a steerman is a guy that lives in that town, and you give him a percentage of what you win, and nobody knows it, but he knows everything about that town, and he steers you around, tells you who's got the money, who to play first, when to play second, when to play third, when to play fourth, and then when to take the whole town off. So I did that constantly, right? And so I was in a bar in Chattanooga, and this bar was full of construction workers, and on Friday they'd get their paychecks. So anyway, I'm in there one night, and I think I win like 3,000 playing 8-ball. True story, playing 200 to 300 a game 8-ball. Well, one of the guys in there happened to know a guy that owned the electric company in Gadsden, Alabama. So he introduced me to this guy, big old farmer guy. Just crazy. I think about this all the time. So he owned the actual electric company. Somebody just come up to me in Louisville, Kentucky when I was commentating SBB versus Borst, and he said, hey, remember when you played the guy that owned the electric company? So a story I haven't told is I spent 2 weeks in this electric company. The guy had a 3.5 by 6 bar table, a couch, and a giant building full of electrical shit.
Whenever, right?
Electrical, right? Yeah. So the guy would play 50 a game. He was the nicest big old farmer that I ever met. He played me 50 a game till my legs, till I could drop, until he'd have to go to work. Yeah. So we'd play all night till like 5:30, 6 in the morning. Yeah. I'd sleep on the couch. He'd wake me up at lunchtime. We'd start playing again. And I didn't have a lot of money. He was such a nice guy. I can't remember the guy's name, but it's just a wild story, right? I'm playing a guy that owns an electric company in a small town. Now, I know you guys can't see the size of the room we're in, but it was bigger than the room we're in.
We're in a pretty big room.
And the whole place was like buzzing as I'm playing. It was just really weird. So that was kind of a wild story, but that's how the road would lead you. And I've got a lot of those type of stories. So the road would lead you. You'd go to one place, but then somebody in that place would be sharp enough to steer you to another spot.
Right.
Right. And so we didn't have telephones or social media back then. So I was kind of like in the dark, finding money everywhere I went.
Yeah, in the darkness, kind of figuring it out.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But at times it got dangerous.
Yeah, I can imagine. Because especially you're playing construction workers, and obviously you must have had that personality at a young age. You already have that fantastic personality. I mean, here we are at the WNT Florida Open, and, you're friends with everybody, you know everybody. We go out there and we talk to Ivan, and you're friends with him. We talk to Elvis, you're friends with him. So, I can see that personality in you. So you must have been able to do that somehow on the pool table to, not threaten them, but play them well enough or just enough to win, but not hurt their feelings, if you know what I mean. You must have had a knack for that, right?
I guess, yeah, probably. I guess maybe I have a knack. I think it took a little bit of a mouthpiece to kind of get through like 12 or 15 years of being on the road, and I don't know whether it was intentional or intelligent, but I was fearless as well, which put me in some pretty interesting positions, very dangerous positions at times, which I didn't think affected me. You and I talked off camera a little bit. I was telling you, I've thought about it a lot, and how I am where I am now. And back when these traumatic things happened, I was fearless. I'm not saying I was a tough guy. I promise you. I know I wasn't a tough guy, but I was not scared of much.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really wasn't. So I'd find myself, and I did a lot of traveling by myself. I'd find myself in situations where most people would just think, well, how the fuck did you get here?
Yeah, it's just what you just talked about 5 minutes ago. You're in a bar with construction workers, okay? Now, there's those guys, all different ages, different sizes, different attitudes. And I've worked construction in the past. Some guys have bad attitudes, you know what I mean? Yeah. And they're drinking, and you're putting yourself in there, you're taking their money. So you have to be kind of fearless. There's no...
Yeah, and you have to make them like it, right? So I was pretty... Yeah, your point. I was pretty good at making them like it. And I knew when I was close to crossing the line, I could sense that, right?
So at that point, you back off a little bit?
Like, yeah, just kind of switch gears.
Yeah, even if you lose 1 or 2 racks, doesn't matter, or change your attitude.
Yeah, more vocally, switch gears and more with my energy.
Yeah, right.
If I'm
That's very important.
a little too far, I could recognize that pretty quickly. Yeah, I think I'm still pretty good at that, but I'm a lot different person now. But that's a whole another subject. Took me a long time to get where I'm at now and finally start to be myself. But I know some people want to hear some things that happened to me.
Yeah, we want to talk a little bit about, like, again, that was a great story with the guy. I mean, you're playing the guy who owns the electric company. Just think about that. Like, what are your biggest stories? Like, what are your biggest scores that you made on the road? And were they easier than you thought, harder than you thought? Something that just fell out of the woods. You saw I made this much money.
So you just want me to tell about a winning story, right?
Yeah, or your biggest loss story. You had a backer who lost a lot of money. Yeah, tell us.
Probably the Viffer story, the Poker After Dark story,
Okay.
which is all over AZ Billiards. And a lot of it's accurate, a lot of it's not.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's a long story.
And again, this guy has been everywhere. His Poker After Dark has been in the interview, in the magazines. He's been on the TV show, Gambler's Hustler and Thief. You've got to go check out that episode. It's unbelievable. But the stories he has, there's second to none out there as far as the gambling world and what he's seen. So,
I think for people to get the most out of this, I know we try to keep it within an hour, to be honest, for me to be comfortable and tell a story for where I'm not like lying within the story. Like, I'll tell the Viffer story, the Poker After Dark. So basically, all I was getting at there is I think just to let it go just a bit longer. If we go a bit longer, we apologize, guys. But I think that's important for you all to get the gist of what really happened versus me kind of cut a lot of corners there. So he wants to talk about a story. I think that's crazy. And that story actually had a big impact on my career in a negative way because I couldn't really find the rush or the drive to play after that due to how much we were betting. I was in a tournament in Breakers in Mobile, Alabama. And
one pocket tournament?
Yeah, Ricky Bird had the tournament. It was a bar table 9-ball tournament and a one pocket tournament. I ended up beating Warren Kamko in the finals of bar table. It was a big tournament. Playing 9-ball, and I won the one pocket tournament. I believe it was a one pocket tournament or a Banks ring game, but I won both events. I remember Jeremy Jones, I believe, had done the same thing the year prior or 2 or 3 years prior, whatever. Jeremy had done the same thing. But I was at this tournament, big gambling tournament, Mobile, Alabama, and I'd been hearing rumors about all this money being bet at a pool room called Pool Sharks in Las Vegas with the poker player. And the poker player was Dippy Dave. And shout out to him. He had more gamble than anybody ever met. But he was playing Bustamante at the time. Bustamante, and I was in Mobile, but I'm getting word that Bustamante was giving Dippy the 5 break ball in hand playing 9-ball. And Dippy had just completely busted him. I heard he beat him out of 70 or 80,000. Now, to give you an idea, I've been with Erica, my girlfriend. I've been with her 18 years. And we'd been together about a year at the time when this happened, because I actually flew her to Vegas when I started playing Dippy. Anyway, I get a phone call when I'm in Mobile, Alabama, and it's him. And they tell me I got a phone call. I get to the phone. I'm on the phone, and he says, "Well, you're the last one." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Get your ass down here. I got the money. Come get this money." And then he ends up saying, "I'm going to bust your ass like I have everybody else." He'd beat Alex, he'd beat Corey Duell, he'd beat Bustamante, and he just kind of lined them up and took them down, but he was getting the nuts.
Yeah, he's getting the nuts.
And
the pool players, they want the money. They're going to take a shot.
Yeah, and he was very, very correct. He was very good at flashing the money, right?
Yeah.
Making you
the pool players want that.
Oh, yeah. So you take a shot. Yeah, and I was dumb enough to do the same thing. In my opinion, I got lucky. So I called Billy and Cardona, who called Jack Cooney, and I was still in Mobile, and we devised a plan. We knew that Dippy was going to make us bet, right? So we ended up going to Vegas, and I had a plan, though. I wanted to get to know Dippy a little bit better before I started playing him. I wanted to befriend him, and this was part of the plan.
Yeah.
Well, I did befriend him.
And it's kind of been working your whole career as of now, too, right? So that's your MO. When you get into games, you kind of get a little friendly with them.
Yeah, I think, so I did that, right? I got to know him. He ended up taking me back then. This is when the Aria had just opened, and they had a private poker room called Ivy's Room. So he ended up taking me to some high-end private games, and we're running in around together. But all the while, we know we're going to play each other.
Yeah.
But we're still friendly. Wow. He's driving around in this Tahoe, and it's a black Tahoe, Chevy Tahoe, which I really liked. So the whole time we're hanging out, and I had a good time with him. We were friendly.
He's showing you a good time.
Yeah, fun guy.
Absolutely.
Fun guy.
He's living in Vegas, living the life.
Yeah. he was actually playing heads up one night with a guy that was a big shareholder in Coca-Cola. During Tom Dwan and Ivy and all these guys are going to know this is true. And Dippy invited me to go watch him play this Bob Wright heads up in Ivy's room. So anyway, this is while I'm befriending Dippy. And Bob Wright, the guy that's a major shareholder in Coca-Cola, is on the phone with his wife who's trying to fly into McCarran Airport, which is there in Las Vegas. They're playing like 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 a hand heads up. So Bob Wright's on the phone arguing with his wife because she's got some problem getting to the casino. And Viffer, or Dippy, is trying to bluff him. And I'll never forget it. It was like 370,000 Dippy shove. Bob Wright never looked at the cards. He just calls. He beat him out of like $1 million, beat Dippy out about like $1 million in a 12-minute phone call.
Wow.
I was absolutely shocked. And we ended up leaving. But Viffer was really good at getting money, and he had money at the time because he'd be running people over in that poker after dark.
Yeah.
But that was just a crazy moment. But anyway, through all this, he had this Tahoe that I liked. So I kept needling him. I said, I want this Tahoe. Please sell me this Tahoe. So I give him $10,000 for the Tahoe. Right? Finally breaks down. It had a nice system in it, sound system.
It was worth way more than that.
It was beautiful. Yeah, it was probably worth like 16 to 20. Yeah, right? So he sold me the Tahoe. Now, I've kind of got him right. So it was like 2 days later, I start to say, it's time to rock and roll. Billy finally gets out there. Jack Cooney finally gets out there. And our plan was this. We were going to fire 50,000 at her. Basically, our toothpick to his lumberyard.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So we were going to fire 50,000 at him. And if he beats me, then we're done.
Yeah.
Right? We're done. Yeah. But the catch was that I had to give him 18-4.
So if I get...
Yeah, it's the same way I think he beat Alex. Pretty positive.
Yeah.
I think they were actually giving him like 16 or 17-4.
And how old are you at this point?
Okay, so it was like 17 years ago.
Okay.
40. So it's probably, it might be a little sooner than that. I might have been closer. Yeah, I think I was closer to 30. It's probably 50.
So I would say this is probably your prime in one pocket, right? Would you say that you're playing the best, like when you're winning all those one pockets, the ones that you went to, and you were making your scores? So this is probably at your hit game. You're playing the best, probably the best in the world at this point.
I would agree with that. I'd say around 30, I was really, really polished at that point.
And
so,
just so you know, he's best one pocket player in the world, and not that many people know he's the best one pocket player in the world. The one pocket players do, but yeah.
There's so many great players out there.
Yeah,
I know I was for a while.
Yes, you were.
But,
yes, you were.
So we got the 50,000 together, and the game was 18-4. Billy did.
And do you post this kind of money, or do you use it? It's handshake.
That was nothing for him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So
and that was like a small blind for this guy.
Right.
Realistically, like a big blind for this guy. You guys know poker, you know what that is. But he had chips. We had cash.
Right.
Everything he paid in at the time was poker chips.
Poker chips. This is just as good as money.
Yeah, it was until you win $1 million and try and cash.
Yeah, that's true.
But it was still good, right?
Yep.
So we decided to play on a certain day. We put up the 50,000 with him. And we rock and roll.
Yeah.
And I'm giving him 18-4.
Is this one rack?
No, we played 10 ahead.
Oh, 10 ahead for 18-4. Okay. I was going to say that's a little crazy. Okay.
Nobody does that.
Yeah.
But we ended up, So
it's 10 ahead, 18-4.
Yep. 10 ahead, 18-4. And Billy and Cardona didn't like the game. Neither did Jack, but they both knew how good I was playing. So we just took a shot. Right?
Yep.
I win the set playing 10 ahead, and so I'll explain to you people what it really means. So if Bobby and I are playing 10 ahead, and I win the first 3 games, and then Bobby wins the next 3, we're dead even. Coins back at 0. So I have to get 10 games ahead. I win the set in under an hour and a half, 10 ahead for $50. He says heads for 100. Right. And we're playing in this pit. It was back in Pool Shards back in the day. And it was like an 8-foot pit with one pool table. And I loved it because all the eyes were on me. Right. Yeah. That's kind of when I was at my best. I was a little bit of an entertainer. But he says heads for 100. Right. And I never even looked up at Jack or Billy. And I knew I didn't need their permission. He said bet. Right. So we flipped the coin. And in 3 hours, I think it was less than 3. I'm just giving you rough estimates. It's been a while. It was all kind of a blur to me. But the first set was in under an hour and a half. And the second set was under 3 hours.
That's amazing because, I mean, I've been around pool my whole life with a lot of tennis headsets. They last sometimes days. Yeah, even 9-ball take tennis headsets hours.
Well,
that's amazing.
Yeah, playing one pocket. It is crazy.
Yeah.
Right? And so I went 2 sets. And I was scared at that point. I wasn't scared in the second set, but I was scared that he was going to ask me to flip the coin and bet more than we were up, like 200.
Right.
And in there. And he says, come back tomorrow and bet 150. And I'm like, fucking hey, this is absolutely perfect, right?
Yeah.
So we go to dinner. I'm like celebrating. Everything is great. I take that back. He doesn't say anything. He just walks out. So me, Billy, and Jack Cooney go to dinner, and we went with Jim Kelly and a couple other, Pretty Boy Floyd, Jimmy Matai, and we're at dinner, and he calls, and he says, meet us tomorrow at 3 o'clock for 150. And so that's how it really all began. I beat him that set, but I think it took like 6 hours. Then, okay, so I'm up.
So you're up 300.
I'm up 300, and I think we play a set for 200 the same day, and I beat him. Anyway, so yeah, and I beat.
So now you're up to $500,000.
Yeah,
500 grand,
and there's big money on the side.
Yeah,
and we're done. And I think a day or two goes by, and then we play again for whatever it turned out to be. I was up 620,000 or 640 or 620,000. I was up 640,000, whatever it is, after like 5 or 6 days.
Yeah. Are you sleeping at this point? You guys playing pretty much straight through? You get now the first night you went to dinner.
A few days in between, right? Like after I beat him the second day, there was a day in between. It took over a 5-day period. We were sleeping because I'm beating him pretty quick.
Yeah,
which I don't know how.
Yeah,
I was playing really, really well. So I'm up. I think I'm up 640,000. That seems to be the number. So he says. And we kind of knew it was coming, but he says, bet,
the same spot.
Yeah. Yeah. He says, bet 3. I think he said, oh no. He says, bet 340. This is how, or 320. This is how I got up 640,000. He says, bet 320, whatever day it was like day 5 or 6. He said, but this time we started getting word that there was people that were kind of staking the pool room out. So we're getting a little nervous because money was
a lot of money there. I sure, yeah.
Tom Duong was in there for a lot. He was coming in and out. Tom Duong was there a lot. And that's his nickname, his poker nickname, Legend. I'm a huge fan, or was at the time. But he was staking part of this with Dippy. Come to find out later. But anyway, so he says play set for 320,000. My stipulation was, and Dippy was connected to the Aria, is that we post the money in a lockbox at the Aria. So we had to meet at Ivy's room, and there's this dark room that you can go count the money in. So we're in this back room, and we're counting the money, and it takes forever. Dippy's giving us pressure to get to the pool room. And the whole reason we did that, once again, is that rumor got out that we were going to get robbed if we continued to bet that kind of money in that pool room. So we finally go there. And this was the toughest set I had. It wasn't the money. I never thought about the money when I played. I just never did. And I was taught that at a young age. So I think that helped a lot because now when I got older, I did think about the money quite a bit, which kind of affected me.
We'll talk about that a little bit before the end.
I beat him. I beat him the set for 320,000. 640,000 to this day. I don't know of a bigger cash set. The cash money was posted. It was real. There was hundreds of witnesses. All of this, what I'm telling you, is 100% the truth. The timelines might get a little jacked up.
Yeah.
So I win that set, and I'm on top of the world. I had just flown Erica out, who I'm still with, bless her heart, my best friend, sweetest person on the planet. People that know her, she's completely the opposite.
And we need that. We need that, Scott.
Yeah, she keeps me grounded and it's probably saved my life many times. I win the set, and we kind of just split up from there. Now, I don't know the exact figures, but with the money on the side and everything, we were close to $1 million winner when the smoke clears.
Yep.
And a few days.
It's between 3 pretty much, right? You and a couple of backers.
Me, Billy, and Jack.
Yeah.
Me.
Okay.
And after I won, I guess I need to add this. This is a true story. After I had like very little money. I didn't have big money with me when this started. After I won, they made me put my own money up each set. So my money grew as well. They took care of me.
Right.
I was betting my own money.
So you're winning most
of my
you're
own
winning,
money.
You're winning the money.
And I always bet my own money.
Yeah.
Always. All the way up till I was about 35 when the sets really started getting big and I didn't need to bet my own money when everyone wanted to back me. Then it started to change. But I always bet my own money because I felt like I was the favorite.
Right. And also we talk about this off there a lot too when we talk about gambling and stuff, sometimes when you're betting somebody else's money, it's a different pressure and it's a pressure that nobody really wants. And some pros look at it, they don't care.
I hate it.
But some don't.
It bothered me much more than, and Tony Boone, who's a good friend of mine, like my brother, he knows, he backed me my late career. So I'll finish that story. The story really now is when it gets good. So we're up about $1 million, got the money in my safe.
$1 million.
And it's in poker chips, but it's in my safe, and we start filtering this money through the casinos. I'm cashing.
Right, you're not going to do it all at once, for sure.
I can't.
Yeah, nobody's
too much money. I had people doing it, and we're paying a percentage to cash the chips, and I had pro poker players doing it for me. I just had a little bit of everybody doing it for me. Yeah. But still had a lot of chips in my safe. And one day I get a call from Viffer, Dippy, and it'd been like a 4 or 5 day stretch where we hadn't done anything, where we hadn't played. Well, and he said, I'll tell you what, I'll take the 5, the breaking ball in hand, the same way I beat Bustamante, and I'll play 50,000 a set.
So now you can play 9-ball.
Well, I call Billy, and he's like, no, I don't want any of that. And he's still in Vegas. I'd got him a suite at the Aria. I was staying in a suite at the Aria, the corner suites at the Aria. I ended up staying there a month and a half.
Month and a half.
I think maybe a little bit longer, to be honest with you.
Just if anybody knows that, if you haven't been to a suite in the Aria, they are absolutely amazing. I mean, you're talking a couple 1,000 square feet minimum, with huge bathrooms, just amazing, right?
Yeah. The toilets are heated, the floors are heated.
Yeah.
All the fun stuff. But I was there at least a month and a half. So 5 days go by, and he offers this game. I knew I was just playing so good. I felt like, why not shoot one set at him? So we played 10 ahead for 50,000. Billy and Jack didn't like it, and they said, you're on your own. But we wish you your best. We wish you your best. So I said, okay. So I go to the pool room. And like I said, 5 or 6 days had passed. I win the first set. He's not happy. I win the second set. And we go to play another set for 100. Now, let me tell you exactly how this works. When somebody's getting the 5, the breaking ball in hand, he was clever enough. You're getting ball in hand after the break. He was clever enough to break. He got to rack the balls. This was part of the stipulation. To break where the 1 goes out towards the center of the table and the 5 does as well. He'd put the 5 on the corner, right behind the 1.
Yeah.
The 5 would go 1 rail up right from the side. So he was clever enough to take ball in hand and have a 1-5
combos right there.
So oftentimes,
because he could run 4 balls,
no chance.
Yeah,
I mean, he actually played decent, but I had him so broke down. I had him broke down like a 32 Buick. Anyway, so I'd lose 2-3 games really quick, but we ended up playing one last set. It turned out to be one last set, 10 ahead.
Yeah, and you're up 1,000, 100,000 at this point.
100 sets for 50. Chris Bartram's there. If anybody knows who he is, he was a great player, big money player back in the day, and he's still around. He doesn't play anymore. Successful, smart guy. He was there, and he and Dippy were friends, but he was very fair. I'm on 9 games for the 100,000. I'm on 9 games, still a bunch of witnesses. I'm giving him the same game that Boosty lost at, and I have like a 3-9 carom to win the money. And Dippy asked Chris to come down and watch the hit. And I was perfectly good with it because I knew Chris was honest.
Yeah.
I make a good hit, and I make the 9. And Chris says, good hit, right? I make the 9, set's over. Dippy starts yelling, and he spits at me. I slightly chase him around the table. Everything calms down. But I'm so far ahead, and he's bitching, and I know what's going to happen. He's not going to pay this money.
Yeah.
And he says, no. So I end up playing the game or that rack over.
Yeah.
He brings it all the way back down to 0. I end up coming back and I win. He goes storming off. This is where everything turns crazy. The very next.
This is where it turns crazy.
This is where it turns.
All right, I'm ready for this one. All right.
I'm telling the full story.
All right.
There's rumors of what happened, but Billy knows the story. Jack Penny knows the story, the truth.
So this is going to be a podcast. Everybody hears it. This is what happened.
Yeah, so it's the very next day because I'd expected him to pay that night. It's the very next day. And he calls me and says, meet me at the, there's a hotel right behind the Aria that everybody knows.
Westgate?
No, it's a hotel. Or not a hotel. It's a series of apartments.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I'm not going to say them, but there's a series. It's kind of a party place, nice place. But he had an apartment there on a high rise. And he said, meet me here at I think like 2:00. Right? I'm in the Tahoe that I bought from him, and I'm in the driver's seat. Billy's in the passenger seat. You have to go through this gate and get buzzed in, and we go in. And we're sitting out front, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting. And finally, the doors open. He comes walking out, and I'll never forget, it's hotter than hell out. He comes walking out, and he's got a black guy on each side of him, and much bigger than me. They were security guys, right? He walks over around the Tahoe to my side. I roll the window down. He looks at Billy and says, Billy, just so you know, I paid Scott that $200,000 about 3 hours ago this morning. He thought Billy was in with me. He said, I paid Scott about 3 hours ago. We met for breakfast. And he turns around and walks off, right? So what he was trying to do is cause problems between me and Billy.
Right.
He thought Billy was staking me.
Yeah.
So I go to get out of the car and chase him, and Billy grabs my arm and won't let me out of the truck.
Right.
So I let it go. I was so angry. I mean, I was pretty young still. I was so angry. I started fucking crying.
Yeah.
I started crying. I tear was
Yeah.
streaming.
Anybody that knows you can get emotional. So.
Because this was a lot of money, and it was actually all mine.
Right.
He didn't know that. There's $200,000, right?
He actually threw against it, saying that he was backing you, and he wasn't at all.
No, he's pulling a move.
Yeah,
Right?
pulling a big move.
Pulling a move.
Yeah.
Right? So I go bananas. But he had 2 security guards with him. Both were armed.
Yeah.
The troop. Both were armed.
Right. If you go after him, anything in that
There's
could
no
happen.
good. I'm glad Billy stopped me.
Yeah.
So Billy goes, let's get the fuck out of here. Come on. Billy already knew I didn't do him wrong. Yeah. I was born around him since I was young. Not born around him, but in the pool world, I've been around him since I was young. So we go back to the hotel. Billy says, you know what, Scott? This is what we need to do. We need to wash our hands of this. But I was a mess. There's a ton of money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge.
You earned it. You played your ass off. So
$200,000.
yeah.
He says, let's just wash our hands of it. But it wasn't a big deal for him like it was for me. And he's like, let's just go home. Let's just go home. We got the money, right? And I'm like, yeah. And we talk about it in his room for quite a while. We talk about it. He's like, you know what? I've got to go. It's been a long, stressful couple of weeks. And I think it's been freaking couple of weeks at that time, right? 10, 12 days. And I said, I get it. So he goes home. And he says, you do what you want with that money owed, but be smart, all right? He's like, be smart. And I'm like, all right, so I'll be smart. Shout out to Carl Boways right here. So I sit around for like 3 or 4 days. Now, finally, I get a response from Dippy like in day 4. And he says, hey, I'll pay you tomorrow. So I stick around another day. Mind you, it's costing us a lot of money. Me. Erica's staying with me. I think about 10 days goes by, literally, and I'm just waiting for him to send me the money. Obviously, I'm bugging it. I'm bothering him. I message right? But it's a ton of money.
Yeah, of course.
Thinking one day he's
going to pay you. You figure
he's just going to give me, they're called
absolutely.
They're called Cranley's $25,000 chips. I think he's just going to give me 8 of them and call it a day.
Right. May throw another bag of money at you, something.
So like, let's just say day 10 goes by and he calls me and he says, Scott, I've got your money. He finally admitted that what he did, the move.
Right, yeah.
He admitted all that. And he said, Scott, I got your money. Meet me at the Mandalay Bay. Now, a lot of people have heard this part of the story. I said, okay, no problem. He goes, meet me in the front valet. I rush to the Mandalay Bay. I rush to the valet. It's midday time. There's 0 people in the valet. I called him. I said, Dippy, there's nobody in valet. He said, dude, you took forever. I'm in the back, right? So I rush around to the back valet.
Now I got to think, might be doing another move.
There's nobody in the back valet.
Yeah.
So I text him because he wouldn't answer the phone. I said, dude, where are you at? He said, I'm inside at the dice table. Now, mind you, there's some time going by because I've never been to the Mandalay Bay and I'm trying to fight traffic.
In Vegas is weird streets.
Yeah. So I run in. He's like, I'm at the dice table. Just meet me inside. So I'm not really suspecting anything yet. I get into the dice area and 0 tables are going. 0, right? So now I know I've been had.
Yeah.
I call him. I said, bro, what's going on?
Yeah.
And he says, why don't you start shooting dice, because that's the best fucking chance you're going to get this 200. Now go fuck yourself.
Wow.
And he hung the phone up. So that, I just was kind of like lost, right?
Yeah.
Back in the hotel, and this is where it really gets bad. And this is the problem. It's a long story, and I don't want to miss a lot of details. I start drinking.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of money in the safe, and I start drinking. So I start shooting dice, and poor Erica, she's up in the room, and she didn't drink, do drugs or anything. So I start shooting dice. I brought 50,000 down with me, and I was betting the pass line, which I didn't like betting to begin with, but I was on tilt. I was on dead tilt.
Yeah.
I blow the 50, and I got to know the pit bosses. This is all true. I blow the 50 in like 12 minutes. I tell the pit boss, his name was Mac, he was a black guy, super cool guy. I tell him to please call my room and have Erica bring me down 2 more cranberries. And those cranberries were $25,000 chips. She's in her sweatpants, this poor girl. I'm shit-faced drunk. She brings down 2 more cranberries. I change them out. I blow the 50, right? I tell her to bring me 2 more. I blow that. I'm down 150, right? Now it's starting to sink in. I'm drunk. Now I'm stuck 150.
Yeah.
I'm stuck 150.
Minus the 2 that you didn't get.
Minus the
Yeah. It's a 350. But yeah.
And so I'm drunk though. I tell the pit boss to tell her to bring me down 30. Okay. And so I switch sides on this 30. I start to bet the don't pass. Long story short, I hate that term. There's been a long story. I'm there.
Just keep on. You're doing
there about 30 hours. They gave me a chair. It's illegal in these casinos in Vegas to have a chair at the dice table. They gave me a chair. I start betting the don't when I'm 150 loser. Okay. And I end up getting like 20 to 25 loser at that point. I'm betting the max and max prices as well. So in other words, if they roll out or come out is the 10, I'm betting against it and I'm laying max price.
You're basically 3 to 2 or 2 to 1 on that one.
So you got to come out, which is 7 or 11, right? So I've got like freaking 5,000 left. 33 hours later, I win it all back but $5,000. Wow. All of it back but $5,000. But because I'd went through that emotional roller coaster, I was not happy with what Dippy did to me. It just was wrong.
Yeah.
Did some nasty shit to me.
Yeah. At this point, you're tired, you're drunk or sobering up. You're obviously in that zombie state or whatever you want to call it.
So I wake up the next day and a half or whatever, and I just couldn't take it. So there's a guy named Tony Ryla that is an Italian guy. They call him Fat Tony. He owns a private boxing gym in Vegas. He's passed away. But I used to stay at his property, and he owned the nicest boxing gym in Vegas, real close with Floyd Mayweather Sr. and all these guys, right? Well, I had met and knew Floyd Mayweather's bodyguard at the time, who was a Samoan guy named Joe.
And a big guy.
Yeah. A lot of other people knew him because he was with me a lot. So I called him. I said, dude, this is what happened. I told him the story that I'm telling you, and he was mad, right? He's like, we got to figure something out. So I go meet him at Big Tony's house, who's passed away now, and we devise a plan. So I let every pool room in town know, hey, if this guy shows up, call me. If he shows up, call me. So we had a plan. And like 4 or 5 days, dude, he had put me through so much. And I know people are like, oh, fry me a river, you're up all this money. But at the time, that's a ton of money for me. And
that's a ton of money for anybody, by the way. But
I went through a lot to wait to get this money, right? Like I almost went broke waiting to get this money. Yeah. So Joe and I, the Samoan, and that's his real name. He don't care. He's a good dude down doing different things. But he was one of Mayweather's bodyguards at the time. We devised a plan. And the plan was that if any pool room called us, we were going to go straight there, but Dippy's going to be in that pool room. And the first thing we're going to do is walk in and I'm going to say, hey, Dippy, I'd like my money, right? And if he says anything or that does anything wrong, I tap him once on the shoulder. That's Joe. And that means get him. And when I tap him twice, that means stop, right? That's our route.
That's it. That's it. Pretty simple. Okay.
That's the only reason
all right.
Sure enough, we get a phone call that he's at the Las Vegas Cue Club. Yeah, and it's like 12:30 at night or maybe 1 o'clock in the morning at the latest. Now, a lot of people back then still gambled. Ronnie Wiseman was there, and a lot of other people. So if you'd ever been to the Las Vegas Cue Club, there's a high rise, and then you overlook the gambling tables. Joe and I walk in. Sure enough, table number 7, who was the owner's table, Toby Fleehardy, who was a great player, Dippy and Ronnie were playing on that table. So we walk in, we're looking down the stairs, and before I can even ask Dippy where my money is at, he goes, I'm going to tell the story. He goes, who's that fucking with an N-word? He uses the N-word.
Wow.
So I go like this.
That was it, right?
And this dude, he was nobody to mess with, right? He jumps down. He's a big guy. He jumps down these stairs, and Dippy was a heavy guy at the time. Chasing Dippy, finally gets him, picks him up, picks him straight up in the air and slams his head down on the table, and Ronnie Wiseman was there, lays his head on the table, starts smashing his head with the one hand, and then using his other hand to go through the pockets. Well, somebody had tipped him off. Go figure. Didn't have his Rolex on, didn't have any money in his pockets. And I'm thinking he's going to kill him.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The plan.
He's in the zone, huh?
He's in the zone.
He's in the zone.
He's locked in, right? He's locked in. So finally, I get Joe off of him, right?
Yeah.
Well, this freaking idiot gets off, and I'm talking about Dippy, runs around the backside of a different table and starts saying the N-word to him again. And he's bleeding.
Wow.
Bleeding and jacked up.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stop Joe at this time. The signs were off.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't matter at that point.
So he goes after him again. And this is happening for like a long period, but so we were already tipped off.
Yeah.
As he's going after him the second time, he's got a hold of her. Not lying. I mean, there's still a ton of people that are still alive that know this story, and people that work there. About 25 officers come running in.
Yeah.
Right? They come running in.
Guns a-blazing, huh? They're ready to go. Yeah.
Guns a-blazing. And they put everybody down. So finally the sergeant comes up and he goes, I hear you're the guy I got to talk to. And I said, yeah. And I'm going to tell you exactly the truth, exactly what fucking happened. And they'd zip tied us because there's so many people.
Yeah, they did. That was up handcuffs.
Yeah, so they'd zip tied all of
Oh my gosh.
So he finally gets to me and I tell him the whole story. And he looks at me and says, turn around. And he cuts my zip ties to us. Okay? He says, I'm going to give your friend a simple battery. Now get the fuck out of here. I don't want to see you again tonight. And so I was okay with this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But we can get the money. So later that night, it's unbelievable. So later that night, about 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I also knew who owned or ran the Spearmint Rhino, which is a nice strip club in
Okay.
The manager. His name was John. And we used to go in the glass booths, pro poker players, just go have a good time, right? I get a call. I'm not with Joe anymore. I'm back at the hotel, but Joe's still awake. I get a phone call that Dippy's in there in Spearmint Rhino. So what do? We go over there.
Really?
Yeah, we go over there. And we go over there and we go in the back of the VIP where you can pull up, and we go through this place and we just go sliding all through this place. It's dark, but I know every crook of this thing. So I'm going through there. We're going through there trying to find him. We can't find him. But I know that my friend that's the manager and called wouldn't steer me wrong. We can't find him. So we come out back where the VIP is and where you park your cars and the valet. And wouldn't you know it, the same fucking cops are out there. The sergeant.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's in like, hi, Scott.
Dippy's out there. Well, here's the problem. So he never gave me the title to the Tahoe.
Yeah.
So Dippy tells that cop that I stole his Tahoe.
Oh.
Right then and there. But the cop doesn't believe him, but tells me he has to impound the Tahoe due to the fact that I don't have the title.
Yeah.
So he didn't charge him for stealing. Thank God he was cool. Anyway, long story I keep saying that. I hate saying
that. Yeah.
So then he impounded the Tahoe. They forced me to my hotel. We don't get the $200,000. And I end up suing Dippy. It's probably the only pool lawsuit for gambling that I'd ever seen. I finally go home.
That's amazing. That's
Harry Plattis.
Yeah. So you
famous in the pool world, an attorney in Seattle. He put me with an attorney, and I had to have a certain amount of witnesses that all of this that I'm saying happened.
Yeah.
And I sued him, and he settled out. What he ended up doing, his mom called me. What he ended up doing is taking 18-4. He put up the $200,000. I didn't have to put up a quarter.
Yeah.
Billy told me it was a bad deal, but I didn't want to take him to court. And I went up and beat him for the $200,000.
So you had to beat him three times, secondly, for the $300,000. It's for the $200,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was really the end of the story. I lost the Tahoe, but gained
And back in the day, a lot of people, we did sell cars like that. It was not a big deal. You figured it out later on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gave cash and they figured it out. But wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, it was wild. It was a wild. That was just obviously one story. We're not going to get in any more of those.
Yeah.
But I felt like you asked me, I think that's a pretty intense and good story that really happened that is wild. I don't know any gambling stories where you can sue somebody. And you could only do that in Vegas, by the way, because it's a gambling state.
Yeah.
A certain amount of witnesses. It took me a lot of time to do it, but I was so pissed off.
How hard was it to play that set, being next to the guy at that point? I mean, that has to be worse than any pressure like being out here in the Florida Open. That pressure because you just want to strangle the guy.
Yeah,
and
at the time, I felt like I had him beat, right?
Yeah.
Like I enjoyed so much just beating him.
Yeah, I did.
There was just nothing better. And at the time, now that I'm older, I probably wouldn't have been able to make a ball now. But at the time, I just got off on that, on beating him. And I loved beating him the whole time that I did. So that worked. Obviously, I've got some really dark stories as well.
Yeah.
But anyway. So,
well, that was pretty crazy. That was a great story. I mean, holy cow, from beginning to end. That's really, so the crowd's audience is gonna get really enjoyment out of that. That was something. And that was the last time you spoke to him after that.
Yeah. Actually, we have not spoke. I heard he's doing well. I don't dislike the guy. He's actually a character. I don't dislike him, and we have some type of a bond. I'm sure he doesn't like that.
He does.
But, when you go to war like that with somebody else, win or lose, like I've lost to many people, you have some type of a connection there, right? You just kind of, you go through something.
Yeah.
The ups and downs and
the moves back and forth, everything at that point.
And the battle. So you kind of just have some type of connection. I still respect him. It was just a bad time.
Right. All right, let's switch gears a little bit on that one. That was awesome. That was a great story. Let's talk a little bit about your the gambling aspect as far as the pro. To make up now, all these young kids are superstars when they're 17 years old, right? You did not, and Tony Chohan, a bunch of other players out there earning your money, gambling. What's the biggest difference between the money players and the younger stars that are today growing up, like the Felix Vogels and people like that, are just bred to play pool, 9-ball, and then in the gambling?
Yeah, but I don't think there's a comparison, because what Emily Frazier and the staff at Matchroom have done with Matchroom, it wasn't around in my era. That's why I chose the route that I chose. And that's why a guy like Tony Chohan and the guys before us chose the routes that we chose. I wasn't interested in 9-ball because the money wasn't really there. I was interested when I was first starting, but I think that there's a completely different platform now, which is so fortunate for these young players. And, people complain, pool players and fans, and we're never going to be happy. But listen, you've got guys out here making $500,000 a year just in tournament money. Okay.
Not counting sponsors.
Not counting sponsors. I never thought in my lifetime I would see that. So all the work that Emily and the staff has done to grow this sport amongst the players as well is probably, to answer your question, we just didn't have that, Bobby.
Yeah.
Then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we had small tours that paid literally nothing. And it's very hard when you go out and win 100,000. I had many $100,000 scores.
Right.
So it's very hard when you can go win 100,000 and kind of control the whole atmosphere and then go play a pool tournament to try and win 20. And then it also kills your confidence. I called pool tournaments back then confidence killers, because
call bad rolls. Yeah. We hear the players talk about on our podcast all the time. You can be playing on your game and still not win the event because, so it's tough for you. Yeah. I understand that.
Yeah. So the times are completely different. I've told Emily, I've told the staff here, I wish I was 20 years younger. I would love to compete in this. I don't think I can beat these guys playing rotation. They're so talented.
Right.
But I'd love to have an opportunity to play.
Yeah. No, like my guy Honas, one of my good buddies, a young kid, 23 years old. He's got a Rolex. He just bought $1,400 shoes because he's working his butt off and paying his dues. And he's not winning every event, but he's up there able to make money, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Great stuff.
All right, let's switch this up, Scott. Let's talk about right now. All right. We got together, I want to say, was it last year, Moscone Cup? We started talking a little bit. I mean, we were talking before that, but then we met actually in this area. You were doing the fun games in the party room, the VIP room. Yeah, Frosty's Frost. And I interviewed there when we talked before, obviously. And then we talked a little bit after that. And I just admire what you do. I mean, even to the story you're telling, you got everybody's name down. You respect everybody. You give everybody the same respect that you deserve. And I see that with your career, what you're doing. You're doing the WNT. You've got side projects going. I'm talking to you. I'm texting you. How did all the gambling and what made you switch to start doing all the stuff that you're doing, including this podcast, but everything else that you're doing?
Yeah. And I've, I reflect on it and I still don't believe that I'm here. I don't want to get emotional. So, when I went through a lot of bad things, I put myself in those positions. I was crazy, I guess you could say, but I wasn't. I was just fearless and enjoyed the rush. But those things probably affected me a lot more than I knew. I lost, somebody died in my arms. I should have been killed a different time. I avoided many, many robberies over and over and over. Those are all stories in their own right. But when you go through that, obviously something had happened to me because people were kind of steering clear of me, right? And I could recognize that. And I'm talking 15, 20 years ago. Not people. I still had close friends. But I had this kind of, I didn't have this, I had a little bit of a rough image or a hard outer shell. I was a pretty hard guy.
Yeah.
And so obviously what had happened to me, and you and I have talked about it off camera, and I actually just briefly mentioned it to you. We didn't really talk about it, but obviously something had affected me, whether I want to admit it or not at the time, in probably a negative light. It hardened me quite a bit. So I'm so grateful for Matchroom, because if I didn't have this chance, I wouldn't be able to find myself, who is who I am, and I never got to show that, because whenever I was on the road, I was always acting. I was always mapped, right? So, like 15 years or so of my career was a hardcore act. So now I get the opportunity to start to come in my own, which is kind of fucked up after that long. But I get this opportunity. And anybody that I crossed or talked badly to, all I can do is wake up every day and try and better myself. And so that's what I do.
Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. I can see your love by all your peers here at WNT.
Yeah, I'm grateful.
I enjoy working with you. Our producer, Teddy, today, and of course, Austin and Brian. I love talking to you. I know you have a whole another side crew of all the other stuff you're doing.
Yeah, Adam, Jake, Jack, the girls, obviously, India, Phoebe, all of them for allowing me to just be a small part of this. Carl, Jeremy, they didn't have to do this, but right? They didn't have to.
Don't kick yourself too hot, Scott, and talking about your past, because one thing you can say, and you even said it during your stories. You told that officer, "I'm going to tell you the truth," and you told me that from day one too. If I don't like something, if I feel something, I'm going to tell the truth. That gives you a lot of character, and you treat everybody that I've seen you meet with respect. And that's why you're getting the respect back.
Well, I think it's a good thing, right? Like, this whole transition's a good thing. It's just emotional for me because I didn't know this. I knew I came from a good family, and I was always raised a good kid. And my sisters and my brothers, they're great people. And I always knew this was here. But in order to make a living, I just slowly kind of went into this character that was bigger than life in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And then when things happened to me, I don't know about PTSD or anything like that, but maybe that happened, right? Maybe that affected me, or just the life in general. So I think it's a really positive thing. Like I said, I'm just grateful that I got the opportunity. And it's also something that I can continue to improve on. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why they gave me the job. I really don't. I'm my own worst critic, but obviously I get compliments all the time, and I'm grateful.
But I'm telling you, that's why you got it. You give people respect, you have honesty, and you are the hardest worker I know. I mean, you are literally, I'm talking to you in Saudi at midnight, and I'm calling you, or you're calling me at 6 a.m. the next day. And not only are you talking with me, you're dealing with other stuff that you're doing as well. So you deserve everything you get.
Appreciate it.
You work hard, and
but it's a positive thing. It's just kind of weird. It's all kind of like, That's why I try to avoid this, but I wanted to do it for our show, and I think the people deserve that, because there's a lot of people in, the past that don't really know me. You know what I mean? And they just judge. And I think they're starting to see me now, but I don't have hatred to anyone.
I remember me and you in Pennsylvania. I mean, we met a couple times. Again, we talked. We just at the Pennsylvania tournament at Frank Mailetti's place, and you were doing commentary, and you were going outside, and we were just talking, and you're like, man, sometimes these people think I'm so mean, or sometimes you have that thing that people feel that you're mean. When you talk to you, you're so up and honest that that's not even close to what you are.
Appreciate it.
And I'm glad that you're getting it out there today, and everybody can see, the emotions that you feel about how well you're doing. And what's next for Scott Frost? What's next for the Freezer? You're already, one of the main guys on the announcer. You got your own podcast rolling. You got your side gigs going, which big things are happening. I know about that. So what's next for Scott the Freezer Frost?
I'm living the dream, man. I know how lucky I am. I'm living the dream. I'm just taking it day by day. I'm hoping my biggest weakness, as you know, is I don't say no very often, but I'm just, I'm hoping that the sport grows, really. That's really why I'm part of it. I always knew that if I did my job, including playing pool, money would come, right? So if I do my little job and people enjoy it and I continue to improve, then everybody succeeds, right? The business gets better. Everybody, there's plenty of room. So my goal is to continue to be right where I'm at with you, with Matchroom, and watch these kids grow up and become superstars. I'm good with that.
That's a good plan, and I think you're on the way to being a bigger superstar than you've already been. And this podcast is like I said, I wanted to do this with you, and you like I said, I pushed you to do this. You were like, "Nah, really? You want to do my story?" And then I know this is a big deal. I know it's hard for you to talk about all this stuff too.
Yeah, the transition's just what's weird, right? The stories and things that happened to me where I should have lost my life or could have, that's in the past.
And again, go check out that show, Hustler Thieves and Crooks. You got to check out, just Google it. It's on Hulu. And you can watch Scott Frost tell one of his other bad stories, but we'll leave that one to you guys to go Google. But
yeah, it was on the Discovery Channel. I think that's where they really...
I think it's on Hulu now.
Yeah, I do. I watched like 10 minutes of it, and they a ton of details were out. I'm a detail guy.
Yeah.
So I couldn't stand it. I was mad at them. I was like, they told me they were going to leave every detail in, and I filmed for 2 days, and then, of course, there was no details. So I looked like an idiot.
No, you looked great. It was a great story. And this is a great podcast, Scott. I got to say, thank you very much for taking time. Is there anything else you want to say?
For getting emotional. I don't do it. People don't see that. Erica sees it. But I apologize for that.
Just no apology needed. Yeah, no apology needed, buddy. You're doing great. Keep up the good work. Proud of you. You're doing good.
Thank you for everyone, and thanks to everybody. Thank you, buddy.
All right, my friend.
You're the man. All right.
Good stuff coming, man.
Thanks, guys. Like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it.
Yeah, boom. We'll see you guys later.
Shout out to our amazing sponsors, Classic Billiards, Metro Sportz Bar, Anytime Billiards, PNW Pool Thing, the RACK Billiard Club, Evo Sports, JP Shower, Tommy's Tattoo Supplies, In the Box, Andy Gow, and Wayne Harriman. Make sure to check them out, and thanks for supporting the Boomin' Freezer podcast.